Dear Father in heaven, Lord, we are thankful and so blessed by the Brazil camp meeting. We thank you, Father, for all those that put their time and their talents together to put together the camp meeting. We thank you, Father, for Elder Tess, Elder Parminder, Sister Anna Paula, Brother Matthias, for the presentations that they gave, Father. And this was, we've had, the camp meetings are always a blessing. This was a special blessing, Father. But I do pray that as many of these truths are opening up, that if we have any struggling within us, if we have an Apis bull in us still, Father, that, Lord, we pray to see the dark recesses of our heart, that every bit of it be removed. We pray, Father, for the mind of Christ. We pray, Father, for understanding with the knowledge that you give us, that we might have wisdom. It's a tremendous blessing, and I'm very thankful, Father. So we ask you, Father, as we continue to go through the document by A.T. Jones to try to learn more details about what the Sunday law, what the issue was in that history, to just gain the knowledge, Father, but you would also bless us with understanding. We thank you, Father. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. And I didn't write it down, and we're on page 29. However, I gotta get it here. I had it open, sorry, but it wasn't going to show up on the, there we go. Is it going to show up here? Okay, so who's good at summaries? Not me. Well, we're probably also swimming in what all we just learned. I don't know that it'd be really hard. So, so what we went through so far, let me go back to this real quick to the title page. I might refresh my memory if, unless somebody can do a summary of what we went through so far. What we do know is there was a Supreme Court decision, and that's where we're headed to understand the appeal from the United States Supreme Court, making this a Christian nation, their decision to make this a Christian nation. And so we haven't actually, even though we've gotten through 29 pages, there's a lot that we haven't yet seen from what I do remember from where we left off. Hard to remember with everything that we went through today. But we're gonna continue on and see, I think we might have partially seen this, but how they are following step by step. Yeah, because he did map that out, step by step in the steps of the papacy, what the papacy did in their day to what Protestantism has done in the history of Protestantism, which is just so amazing. To leave one system for doing a very bad thing, to go set up a new system to do that same very bad thing. It's really kind of astounding. So anyways, does anybody have anything that they want to say before we get started in reading? I'll take that as a no. Okay, so it'll be helpful at this point to take a glance at the making and establishment of that old order of things. That old order was what it was like during the time of the papacy. In the beginning of the 4th century, there was in the Roman Empire a powerful ecclesiastical organization. This is where we start going to the, what do you call it? The Edict of Milan. The leaders and the managers of which were only anxious to assert their religious oath. 3, the requirement of the religious test oath as a qualification for office. 4, public taxation for support of religion and religious teachers. 5, the requirement of a belief in the Trinity and the inspiration of the Holy Scriptures of the Old and New Testament. 6, the guilt of blasphemy upon everyone who speaks or acts in contempt of the established religion. And 7, the laws for observance of Sunday with the general cessation of all secular business. All this is declared by unanimous decision of the Supreme Court of the United States to be the meaning of the Constitution of the United States. This too, to the utter oblivion of all the history of the making of that Constitution, in open contradiction of the specific terms of that Constitution, and in defiance of the clear intent of that Constitution, as declared in the supreme law by those who made it. So we must have had the first 2 steps from what I remember right, but these were the last steps here leading up to in what the Supreme Court did. They followed every step of the papacy. They made it a requirement of the religious test oath, public taxation. So taxes are going to be used to support religious teachers. The requirement of the belief in the Trinity and the scriptures. And what I thought was interesting, a lot of things interesting, but one of the things Elder Tess pointed out is that they, what was I going to say? I lost my point right in the middle of my thought here. There was a little hole. Oh, that you can't have how did she say it? How you couldn't have one law for the religion and not the same law for the state. If I understood correctly, I probably poorly paraphrased that. So to be a part of the nation, you had to agree with these things, and so they were justifying that you can't have one law for religion, one law for the state. So then also the guilt of blasphemy upon everyone who speaks or acts in contempt of established religion, and the laws for the observance of Sunday with the general cessation. So all this is declared by unanimous decision of the Supreme Court, and we'll pass that because I read that. Now what was ever the papacy more than in this thing which is established and justified in and by this decision? What more was ever required by the papacy in all phases of the old order of things than is allowed and justified in this decision? What more was ever required by the papacy itself than that the Christian religion should be made the national religion, that the discipline of the church should be maintained by the civil power, that the religious test oath should be applied to all, that the public should be taxed for the support of religion and religious teachers, that there should be required a belief in the doctrine of the Trinity and the inspiration of the Holy Scriptures of the Old and New Testaments, that the guilt of blasphemy should be inflicted upon everyone who should speak or act in contempt of the established religion, and that everybody should be required by law to observe Sunday. No more than this was ever required by the papacy, and in fact, no more could be required, for this covers all. And by this decision, all this is justified in this government and is declared to be the meaning of the Constitution of the United States, but in favor of Protestantism. You note that point he makes there, but in favor of Protestantism, which I thought was another interesting point she brought up when in the 40s and 50s, in the first history that she goes through, where you have the enemies are Catholics, Jews, the Seventh-day Adventists, and the free thinkers. I thought the Mormons were in there too, but she didn't have them on the list today. But you have the Catholics, the Jews, the Seventh-day Adventists, and the free thinkers. And then when you go into the history of the 40s and the 50s, where they bring in the Judeo-Christian, make it Judeo-Christian and bring the Jews in, and no, take that back to the first history, where they had to do more than just a Sunday law, and that was why they had to amend the Constitution. I'm getting my thoughts all mixed up, sorry. So just to make a Sunday law wasn't enough, because a Sunday law wouldn't cover the enemy of the Catholic Church. So there had to be an amendment to the Constitution to declare it a Christian nation in order to do away with their enemy, the Catholic Church. So when you go into the Judeo-Christian history, I thought was interesting. If anybody saw Brother Troy's comment that he put in there about the Seventh-day Adventists, I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of logic, as Elder Parmenter says, just think and use logic. But when you have the Jews being allies to the United States, how could they make a Sunday law? They'd be going against their allies. I don't know if anybody saw his comment. So here we would ask, so this is their thing, to declare this to be the meaning of the Constitution of the United States, and they made sure they noted that it's of Protestantism. Get my little highlighter on here. There we go. So here we would ask 2 questions and inquire whether anyone can have any difficulty in answering them. Does this decision maintain the new order of things to which this government and nation stand pledged by the Great Seal of the United States? Or does it sanction and restore and establish here the old order of things, which our governmental fathers hoped we should forever escape? What then is this but the legal establishment of the very likeness of the papacy, in that by the supreme judicial authority of national government, what more could be done to make the likeness of the papacy in the principle of the thing? Sorry. In principle, we say not in its positive workings, for life is not by this given into it that it should speak and act, Revelation 13:15. But so far as the making of the evil thing and the establishment of the principle of it, the thing is done. The tree does not yet stand with its branches widespread, bearing its pernicious fruit, but the tree is planted. And as certain, and then this is the 1888 history. I think this was written 1892, I think it was. And as certainly as the branches and the fruit are all of one natural stock that is planted, and it is only a question of time when they will appear, so certainly the wide-spreading branches and the pernicious fruit of the full-grown tree are in the evil stock of church and state that has now been planted by the Supreme Court in and for the government of the United States. And it is only a question of time when these fruits will inevitably appear. Anybody question or comments as we went through there? Would somebody else like to read? I need to send a text real quick to somebody that just tried to call.
I can read. Right there at how the papacy was made.
Right.
Okay. How the papacy was made. It will be helpful at this point to take a glance at the making and establishment of that old order of things. In the beginning of the 4th century, there was in the Roman Empire a powerful ecclesiastical organization, the leaders and managers of which were only anxious to assert the government as a kind of sovereignty for themselves. Eusebius Ecclesiastical History, book, I think that's 8, chapter 1. While it was the hope of every bishop in the empire to make politics a branch of theology, it was the aim of Constantine to make theology a branch of politics. In an intrigue, therefore, with Constantine, they succeeded in bartering to him their influence and power in theology for his in politics. As one of the very first fruits of this, Constantine was established in the rulership of one half of the Roman Empire. Jointly with Licinius, he then issued the Edict of Milan, reversing the persecuting edicts of Diocletian and granting liberty and full freedom of the Christians to observe their own mode of worship, granting likewise to the Christians and to all the free choice to follow that mode of worship which they may wish, that each may have the privilege to select and to worship whatsoever divinity he pleases. and commanding that the churches and church property, which had been confiscated by Diocletian,
Yeah.
say it, Diocletian,
Diocletian, yeah.
Diocletian, should be restored to the whole body of Christians and to each conventicle, respectively. This was all just and proper enough and innocent enough in itself and on its face, if that had been all there was to it. But behind it, there lay this ecclesiastical organization, ambitious to assert the government as a kind of sovereignty for itself, and that religio-political intrigue which had been entered into to feed and satisfy this ambition. This ecclesiastical organization likewise claimed to be the legitimate and only true representative and depository of Christianity in the world. It was the Catholic Church. And no sooner had the Edict of Milan ordered the restoration of property to the Christians than it was seized upon and made an issue by which to secure the imperial recognition and the legal establishment of the Catholic Church.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's some significance to this, but I just want to ask the question. Who's the enemy here?
It's
Bad
not,
Christianity.
yeah.
Yeah. What'd you say? What'd you say, Francisco?
Bad Christianity.
Right, Christianity. I just thought that was interesting in light of what we read. You know, here at the beginning, here in this time here, it's the Catholic Church and the enemy is Christianity. And at the end, it's Christianity and the enemy is the Catholic Church.
Mm.
But that was the enemy of France at the time. That's why they had to burn the Bibles. That's what I learned this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
The rule had long before been established that all who did not agree with the bishops of the Catholic Church were necessarily heretics and not Christians at all. It was now claimed by the Catholic Church that therefore none such were entitled to any benefit from the edict restoring property to the Christians. In other words, the Catholic Church disputed the right of any others than Catholics to receive property or money under the Edict of Milan. By disputing their right to the title of Christians, and by this issue, the Catholic Church forced an imperial decision as to who were Christians. And under the circumstances, by the power and influence which she held and by what she had already done with these in behalf of Constantine, it was a foregone conclusion, if not the concerted plan, that this decision would be in favor of the Catholic Church. Consequently, Constantine's edict to the proconsul contained these words.
So before you read these words, so what's the issue here in this paragraph?
Is he about to make a compromise?
No, I'm looking at this one. Property.
All right, property.
Catholic Church dispute. So when they come to the United States and they put together the Constitution and they write the Declaration of Independence, that everyone has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness or property. And so here it is, the Catholic Church disputed the right of any others than Catholics to receive property or money.
Ouch.
So the Christians are the enemy, and property only Catholics can have, is what they're showing.
So they're flying the nationalism kind of flag right there.
Yeah.
It is our will that when thou shalt receive this epistle, if any of those things belonging to the Catholic Church of the Christians in the several cities or other places are now possessed either by the decursions or any others, these thou shalt cause immediately to be restored to their churches, since we have previously determined that whatsoever these same churches before possessed should be restored to them. Nor was it enough that the emperor should decide that all these favors were for the Catholic Church of the Christians. He was obliged next to decide which was the Catholic Church. This question was immediately raised and disputed, and in consequence an edict was drawn from Constantine, addressed to the same proconsul of the province of Africa, in which were these words: "It is my will that these men within the province entrusted to thee in the Catholic Church, over which Sicilianus presides, who give their services to this holy religion, and whom they commonly call clergy, shall be held totally free and exempt from all public offices. The party over which Sicilianus presided in Africa was the party which was in communion with the Bishop of Rome. The other party then drew up a long series of charges against Sicilianus and sent them to the emperor with a petition that he would have the case examined by the bishops of Gaul. Constantine was in Gaul at that time, but instead of having the bishops of Gaul examine into the case alone, he commissioned 3 of them to go to Rome and sit with the Bishop of Rome in council to decide the case. Constantine sent a letter with copies of all the charges and complaints which had been lodged with him, and in this letter to the Bishop of Rome, with other things, he said this: "Since it neither escapes your diligence that I show such regard for the Holy Catholic Church, that I wish you, upon the whole, to leave no room for schism or division." This council, of course, confirmed the emperor's word that the Catholic Church in Africa was indeed the one over which Sicilianus presided. The other party appealed from this decision and petitioned that another and larger council be called to examine the question. Another council was called, composed of mostly all the bishops of Constantine's dominions. This council likewise confirmed the emperor's word and the decision of the former council. Then the opposing party appealed from the decision of the council to the emperor himself. After hearing their appeal, he sustained the action of the councils and reaffirmed his original decision. Then the opposing party rejected not only the decisions of the councils, but the decision of the emperor himself. Then Constantine addressed a letter to Sicilianus, bestowing more favor upon what he now called the legitimate and most holy Catholic religion, and empowered him to use the civil power to compel the opposing party, the Donatists, to submit. This portion of his letter is in the following words: Constantine Augustus to Sicilianus, Bishop of Carthage. As we have determined that in all the provinces of Africa, Numidia, and Mauritania, something should be granted to certain ministers of the legitimate and most holy Catholic religion to defray their expenses. I have given letters to Ursus, the most illustrious lieutenant governor of Africa, and have communicated to him that he shall provide to pay to your authority 3,000 folies, about $100,000. And as I have ascertained that some men who are of no settled mind wished to defer the money from the most holy Catholic Church by a certain pernicious adulteration, I wish thee to understand that I have given both to the proconsul Annolinus, and to Patricius, vicar general of the prefects, when present, the following injunctions: that among all the rest, they should particularly pay the necessary attention to this, nor should by any means tolerate that this should be overlooked. Wherefore, if thou seest any of these men persevering in this madness, thou shalt without any hesitancy proceed to the aforesaid judges and report it to them, that they may animadvert upon them, and as I commanded them when present. Thus, no sooner was it decided what was the legitimate and most holy Catholic Church than the civil power was definitely placed at the disposal of that church, with positive instructions to use that power in compelling conformity to the new imperial religion. Persecution was begun at once. The Donatist bishops were driven out, and Constantine commanded that their churches should be delivered to the Catholic party. Nor was this done at all peacefully. Each party recriminated on the other, but neither denies the barbarous scenes of massacre and license which devastated the African cities. The Donatists boasted of their martyrs, and the cruelties of the Catholic party rest on their own admission. They deny not, they proudly vindicate their barbarities. Is the vengeance of God to be defrauded of its victims? They cried. And that was a quote from Milman, History of Christianity, Book 3, Chapter 1, Paragraph 5, from the end. And the government, by becoming a partisan, had lost the power to keep the peace. The civil power, by becoming a party to religious controversy, had lost the power to prevent civil violence between religious factions. Nor was this thing long in coming. It all occurred within less than 4 years. The Edict of Milan was issued in the month of March, AD 313. Before that month expired, the decision was rendered that the imperial favors were for the Catholic Church only. In the autumn of the same year, 313, the first council sat to decide which was the Catholic Church. In the summer of 314 sat the second council on the same question, and in 316 the decree was sent to Sicilianus, empowering him to distribute that money to the ministers of the legitimate and most holy Catholic religion, and to use the civil power to force the Donatists to submit to the decision of the councils of the emperor. The Edict of Milan, March 313, named the whole body of Christians as the beneficiaries, without any qualification or any sectarian designation. Before the expiration of the month of that month, the provisions of the edict were confined to the Catholic Church of the Christians alone. In the autumn of the same year, when the emperor wrote to the Bishop of Rome, appointing the first council, he defined the established church as the Holy Catholic Church. The following summer, 314, when he called the second council, he referred to the doctrine of the Catholic Church as embodying the most holy religion. And when it had been decided which party represented this most holy religion, then in 316 his letter and commission to Sicilianus defined it as the legitimate and most holy Catholic religion. Nor was this all. while this was going on, also about the year 314, the first edict in favor of Sunday was issued. Though it was blended with Friday, it ordered that on Friday and on Sunday no judicial or other business should be transacted, but that God should be served with prayers and supplications. And in 321, Friday observance was dropped, and Sunday alone was exalted by the famous Sunday rest law of Constantine. Excuse me. All in furtherance of the ambition of the ecclesiastics to assert the government as a kind of sovereignty for themselves. In 323, by the direct and officious aid of the Catholic Church, Constantine succeeded in defeating Licinius and making himself sole emperor. No sooner was this accomplished than the religious liberty assured to the Christians by the Edict of Milan, like the provisions of the same edict restoring confiscated property to the Christians, was by a public and express edict limited to the Catholics alone. This portion of that decree runs as follows. Would anybody else like to read?
I can read if you.
Okay, great. Thank you, sister.
Does it start from Victor? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Victor Constantinus Maximus Augustus, to the heretics. Understand now, by this present statute, you Novatians, Valentinians, Marcionites, Paulians, ye who are called Cataphrygians, and all ye who devise and support heresies by means of your private assemblies, with what a tissue of falsehood and vanity, with what destructive and venomous errors, your doctrines are inseparably interwoven, so that through you the healthy soul is stricken with disease, and the living becomes the prey of everlasting death. Forasmuch then as it is no longer possible to bear with your pernicious errors, we give warning by this present statute that none of you henceforth presume to assemble yourselves together. We have directed accordingly that you should be deprived of all the houses in which you are accustomed to hold your assemblies, and our care in this respect extends so far as to forbid the holding of your superstitious and senseless meetings, not in public merely, but in any private house or place whatsoever. Let those of you, therefore, who are desirous of embracing the true and pure religion, take the far better course of entering the Catholic Church and uniting with it in holy fellowship, whereby you will be enabled to arrive at the knowledge of the truth. It is an object worthy of that prosperity which we enjoy through the favor of God, to endeavor to bring back those who in time past were living in the hope of future blessing, from all irregularity and error to the right path, from darkness to light, from vanity to truth, from death to salvation. And in order that this remedy may be applied with effectual power, we have commanded and before said that you be positively deprived of every gathering point for your superstitious meetings. I mean, all the houses of prayer, if such be worthy of the name, which belong to heretics, and that this be made over without delay to the Catholic Church, that any other place be confiscated to the public service, and no facility whatsoever be left for any future gathering, in order that from this day forward none of your unlawful assemblies may presume to appear in any public or private place. Let this edict be made public. Thus, in less than 11 years from the issuing of the Edict of Milan, the Catholic Church stood in full and exclusive possession of the authority of the empire, both in the rights of property and the right to worship under the profession of Christianity. And with a specific and direct commission to use that power and authority to compel the submission of heretics, thus was made the papacy, the beast of Revelation 13, 1-10. And all that ever came in its career from that day to this have been but the natural and inevitable growth of the power and the prerogatives which were then possessed and claimed by the Catholic Church. And it all came from the Edict of Milan bestowing governmental favors upon the Christians. No man can fairly deny that in the Edict of Milan and the religious political intrigue that lay behind it, there was contained the whole papacy. No man can successfully deny that the Edict of Milan, though appearing innocent enough upon its face, contained the whole papacy, or that the things that followed in the 10 years after 323, which we have sketched, were anything else than the logical and inevitable development of the evil that lay wrapped up in that. Now here is a question that is worthy of the most serious consideration by the American people. If a thing appearing so just and innocent as does the Edict of Milan could so easily be made to produce such a world of mischief in so short a time, and be a curse to the world forever after, what then can be the result of this decision of the Supreme Court of the United States to the same purpose as that, but which hasn't in any sense any appearance of justice and innocence? The American papacy. It may be replied by some that there is not here any ecclesiastical organization, such as that one back there, to draw from this such results as were drawn from that. This would not answer the question, even though it were true. But the fact is that there does exist here a most powerful ecclesiastical combination, an organization which in its aims is identical with that one back there. I guess he's talking about Rome 323. Its leaders and managers have the same anxiety as had those to assert the government as a kind of sovereignty for themselves, and it is the longing hope of every one of them to make politics a branch of theology, in order more quickly to satisfy their ambition to assert the government as a kind of sovereignty for themselves. And this Supreme Court decision gives them precisely in every word the opening which they have all anxiously longed for and earnestly worked for all the way from 4 to 29 years, so that the situation here now under this decision is identical in every way with the situation there at the issuing of the Edict of Milan, with the exception only of the difference in the governments, that being an absolute monarchy and this a republic, but this difference is immaterial to the main issue. This organization in its leading and oldest form is known as the National Reform Association. It was organized in 1863 for the sole purpose of securing such an amendment to the national constitution as should declare this to be a Christian nation, and so justify the enforcement of Christian laws, institutions, and usages, and Christian morality upon all. And the chief of all the laws, institutions or usages, and the supreme test of the Christian morality which it seeks to enforce is observance of Sunday as the Christian Sabbath. It has succeeded in drawing into close and practical alliance with itself, in order as they have a reason, the National Women's Christian Temperance Union and the Third Party Prohibition Party, and the American Sabbath Union, and in 1889, through the American Sabbath Union, it succeeded in forming a coalition with the Catholic Church itself as a material aid to its soaring ambition. This organization has greeted the Supreme Court decision with joyful acclaim. The decision justifies and establishes in completest measure just what this ecclesiastical combination has been working for so long. We shall present here a few short statements from this combination, which will show how they view this matter in the Christian Statesman of June 25, 1892, one of the long-standing secretaries of the association said, "Is not this the time to remember that the United States Supreme Court has officially declared, in a document that reads as if largely gathered from the National Reform Manual, that this is a Christian nation? In the Pearl of Days, the official organ of the American Sabbath Union, May 7, 1892, says that this decision establishes clearly the fact that our government is Christian. This decision is vital to the Sunday question in all its aspects and places that question among the most important issues now before the American people. And this important decision rests upon the fundamental principle that religion is embedded in the organic structure of the American government. The religion that recognizes and is bound to mountain Sunday as a day for rest and worship. The Christian Statesman has always been the official organ of the National Reform Association and is now the mouthpiece of the whole combination. In the issue of May 21st, 1892, this paper says, "Christianity is the law of the land. This is a Christian nation." U.S. Supreme Court, February 29, 1892. The Christian Church, therefore, has rights in its country. Among these is the right to one day in 7 protected from the assault of greed, the God of this world, that it may be devoted to worship of the God of heaven and earth. And one of the very first uses that was ever made of the decision was when, in the months of April 1892, the president of the American Sabbath Union took it in his hand and went before committees of the United States Senate and the House of Representatives, recited its argument, and demanded the closing of the World's Fair on Sunday by Congress, because this is a Christian nation. So basically, he is all throughout A.T. Jones is fighting the idea that the United States is a Christian nation. It isn't just Sabbath. Sabbath is only a particular that showed up as a consequence of this
Yeah, well,
United States.
what we saw earlier in Elder Tessa's presentation, it is why they had to have it a Christian nation. It was more, but it was about the Sunday law, about closing the fair on the Sunday law. That wouldn't get rid of their enemies. It wouldn't get rid of the enemy, the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
But
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if it comes to mind Elder Tessa's quote when she said that if Adventists understood and studied A.T. Jones,
yeah,
you know what I mean? That A.T. Jones wasn't just fighting Sunday law; he was fighting Christian nation.
you know, it's funny that, I mean, I don't know how to describe this, but I know I knew, there's a lot of things I didn't know, but I knew he made the statement that we've heard quoted, because I know I remember reading them before, that when he argued against the Sunday law, that he clearly said, if you were going to make a Saturday Sabbath, then I would still oppose you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how that's missed, that he wasn't arguing about a Sunday law, he was arguing about the rights of all people.
Yes.
It was about the rights of all people, that you're not to inflict this on all the people.
Yeah.
You're taking away their free choice.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, that's fine. That's just very nice. That's exactly what I've been thinking.
Yeah, so he was arguing for the rights of all people, which from what I'm understanding, that's where we're headed, is to, we're not going to be, well, we will be to some extent, but how did Elder Parmenter put it, that if they had been, you know, that when they crucified the Bible, they destroyed the 2 witnesses, had that been the pure, unadulterated truth of the Bible, would they have done that? Yeah. If I remember, I think that was the way he phrased it. No, they probably wouldn't have. They wouldn't have. Yeah. Because it left everybody with their right to choose,
Mhm.
and it was true equality. If that's what, and that's where we're headed, to where, if I'm understanding correctly, it's the Bible that has to be destroyed again, so to speak,
Mhm.
um, because of what the Protestants have done to it. Am I following that correctly?
I don't think it's the Bible. It's the interpretation.
Correct, you're right. Yes, I'm just using the same kind of,
Yeah, figure. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So it's what they've done to it, which was the same thing in Rome. What they did to the Bible is what led to the French Revolution, to throw it out and bring in reason. So they're
just-
going to do the same thing today, or today, in our day, in order to bring in reason. And our arguments are going to be for the rights of all people, but demonstrated through, well, I don't know, we don't have all the answers right now, but through true equality for all people, and with a right understanding of the Bible, right understanding of why did God allow slavery? Why did he even make it a law? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because this is it's a very painful question that drives away a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just one question. If you'd like to put that page down a little bit,
Up or down?
down.
This way?
No, the other way. I'm sorry. It's talking about this National Reform Association.
Right,
That was placed on the line.
right.
Yeah, I saw that. And I mean, look at what this organization has done. And the fruits of this is what I'm saying. It's already been established. And we're just going into this time period, and now where we're going to see the fruits of this National Reform Association and how they've stood for Christianity, our church and state.
Yeah, I want to look up, not tonight, but I want to look up, because then she said it, and maybe somebody, if I missed something, from the National Reform Movement, we knew was established in 1863.
Yes.
On the lines of "In God We Trust." But then she mentioned, as it progressed, I think she was saying that the National Reform Association progressed into Free Religious Association.
Oh, okay. So
And that was in this time period that we're reading. And
yeah,
I need to look it up to
1892.
verify. I need to look up to verify I understood her correctly, that the Free Religious Association was a development of the NRA.
Of this,
And I don't know if
of the
anybody else-
National Reform.
Okay, so yeah, so I kind of want to look that up, because I wasn't sure that that's what she said, and I think it was, but
Yeah, that's what I'm
but the Free
thinking
Religious
too.
Association was in the in this 1888 history.
Yes. Yeah, I think of this NRA as, I mean, the National Rifle Association, but
I know.
it helps me remember it, It's not, well, okay, you've got guns, but this is force.
Yeah,
It's a force, it's a movement of force.
yeah.
Very dangerous.
But if I followed him correctly, he's comparing the Edict of Milan with the National Reform Association, correct? Or with the Supreme Court decision?
Yeah,
To go back and
that
reread
was
that.
just previous what we read,
Yeah,
what you're talking about.
yeah. Which one?
Edict of Milan, yeah.
Yeah, it's the Supreme Court decision.
With the Supreme Court decision, not the edict.
Yeah.
The Edict of Milan with the Supreme Court decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, it's something to connect the dots there, though.
Yeah. So then, so they want to make this demand the closing of the World's Fair on Sunday because this is a Christian nation. So you had to make it a Christian nation and then be able to say Sunday, but they needed the Sunday to get rid of the enemies.
Yeah, exactly.
And then make it a Christian nation. They had to amend the Constitution to get rid of the enemy of the Catholic Church.
Yep.
You have to persecute in the name of God.
Right.
Exactly.
Which is why in the French Revolution, they crucified Christ.
And you could only persecute in the name of God because it gives you the appearance of doing something good.
Well, that's why it takes reasoning
Yeah,
to
exactly.
see this very clearly.
Yeah.
Amen.
The right reasoning, the true reasoning, God's reasoning.
Common sense.
Absolutely. Not just following the leader here.
Would you like me to continue or
Yeah, go
would you?
ahead.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think we're here.
And now, in preparation for Thanksgiving Day, the Christian husband is petting a cat. And now, in preparation for Thanksgiving Day, the Christian Statesman of November 19, 1892, comes out with following, which tells the whole of that part of the story. We print it just as it there appears, titles and all. All right. Christian politics, the Supreme Court decision, the greatest occasion for Thanksgiving. This is a Christian nation. That means Christian government, Christian laws, Christian institutions, Christian practices, Christian citizenship. And this is not an outburst of popular passion or prejudice. Christ did not lay his guiding hand there, but upon the calm and dispassionate supreme judicial tribunal of our government. It is the weightiest, the noblest, the most tremendously far-reaching in its consequences of all the utterances of that sovereign tribunal. And that utterance is for Christianity, for Christ, a Christian nation. Then this nation is Christ's nation, for nothing can be Christian that does not belong to him. Then his word is its sovereign law. Then the nation is Christ's servant. Then it ought to and must confess, love, and obey Christ. Yeah, it comes to mind all the time. It's just today in today's presentation how much they used Christ in and there's just the word Christian so many times appeared in just one paragraph. That's even half of the paragraph. Then his word, okay, then it ought to and must confess, love, and obey Christ. All that the National Reform Association seeks, all that this Department of Christian Politics works for, is to be found in the development of that royal truth. This is a Christian nation. It is the hand of the second of our three great departments of national government, throwing open the door of our national house, one that leads straight to the throne of Christ. Was there ever a Thanksgiving Day before that called us to bless our God for such marvelous advances of our government and citizenship toward Christ? Oh, sing unto the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm has gotten him the victory. Sing unto the Lord with the harp and the voice of psalm. William Weir.
That's really sad to see that. Sing unto the Lord, let's where it say his right hand and his holy arm hath gotten him the victory. And what is this victory they're praising? That this is his Christian nation. Totally against what his plan was.
They're speaking for God.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, this is so brazen now when we see in the light of the midnight cry, not only light of the midnight cry, but the methodology. Through the methodology that Elder Parminder was showing in the, all throughout this, in our dispensation is that it's the geography. This is such a such a huge not only mistake, it's so appalling now when I think about it, and probably you too, that this is so obvious. They are calling this nation, they're basically bringing heaven down to earth. And how would I put it? They're declaring by declaring the nation as a Christian nation, they're basically doing the geography problem, the mistake of geography, right? Just like Jews did.
They're making God in their image,
Yes.
so they can't do no wrong because he's just like them.
Yeah. All right, I won't take too much time.
You know, some other thoughts that I was having with everything that we've been learning as I'm reading in Daniel, the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter, is it 2 or 3, where they sing all kinds of music? Yeah, that's chapter 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? So they're singing all kinds of music, and for those that studied with us a long time ago when we were working on that study on music, that music, you know, when you trace it through the Bible, through using parables, if we did it correctly, that it's that the music that you hear is the prophecy and the truth, the pure word. And then you got in Daniel, they're hearing all kinds of music, and it lists it all out. So I just thought that was interesting, that when we see in light of what's happening today, and internally and externally, because internally we're getting a clarification on equality, and externally, if anybody's kept up with some of the trial, I mean, I'm sure none of us watched it after the camp meeting started, but I know I was watching it, you know, all week, and other than during the camp meeting, and the case is being laid out so clearly, and that all would have a chance. And there was something towards the end of Elder Tess's presentation that made me think of, was when she was showing how they had to come out of, you know, you had the divisions between the old was it the old side? I think it was the old side, new side, and then the old school, new school, and how they had to come out of one and then come out of the other, or not be a part of one and then come out of the other. Same thing as you're seeing, I think, if I was understanding her correctly, that there's that getting, you know, the external events or giving people an opportunity to see the Trump or Republican Party for what it is and come out of there. But now they also have to come out of because you got the North and the South, the Republican and Democrats, you got to come out of that too. And it always takes me to that verse in Isaiah about, you're going to hear a voice that says, this is the way, walk ye in it. And in that verse, a couple verses, or the verse before it, or the couple of verses before it, it talks about, now you're going to see your teachers. No longer are your teachers going to be, who's the teachers? No longer are your teachers going to be hidden from you. So I don't know exactly where that verse fits on the line, but it seems like that's what we're witnessing when you look at how things transpired for us as priests in this dispensation, the last one and this one, that we were in that conservative mindset and didn't even know it and had to escape it, right? But we also have to not land in the liberal mindset either, thinking that Bernie Sanders is the right path. So on the external as well, they're seeing these same things. Did that make sense?
Yeah. I think we're also going, not just, we're not going straight, we're going upwards. So what I'm trying to say is that neither of those sides understand this, you know,
Right.
equality.
We're-
and that's why we can't learn from either of them. But
climbing the rungs of the ladder, going higher and higher above it all.
yeah, like that in that dream where Ellen White says, not the dream, the vision of the path, that she had, the angel told her to look up higher, and high above was a small group of people walking up.
Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, okay. Now can anyone suppose for a moment that this ambitious combination will let slip a single opportunity to take advantage of all that this decision grants, in principle and in substance, when it grants all that they ever asked? If anyone is inclined to think so, let him bear in mind the fact that the petitions which this combination so persistently sent to Congress for Sunday closing of the World's Fair have been so laden with threats of political and other punishments that even United States senators have been obliged, publicly and on the floor of the Senate, to resent it. If they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? Of course, just as soon as they get fairly started, controversies and disputes will arise by which there will be forced in some way by election, by legislation, or by judicial fiat a decision as to what a particular phrase of the Christian religion or of Protestantism shall be the national religion. All controversies which have apparently been hushed for a long time will be revived, and new controversies will spring up. New and old will commingle, and this will take place right early. And as a matter of fact, the door is already wide open from this very thing, as the first steps have not actually been taken in the doing of it. This phase of the matter stands thus. In the first year of President Cleveland's first administration, 1885, his Commissioner of Indian Affairs announced that the government should be liberal in making contracts with religious denominations to teach Indian children in schools established by those denominations. It should throw open the doors to say to all denominations there should be no monopoly of good works. Enter all of you and do whatever your hands find of good work to do, and in your efforts the government will give you encouragement out of its liberal purse. The door was accordingly thrown open by the administration, and in walked the Catholic Church and 15 denominations of professed Protestants, who all received encouragement, and the following rate. For 1886, $118,343 to the Catholic $1,000 to the Catholics alone, and 109,900 to all the others together. Throughout President Cleveland's administration, this encouragement was kept up and steadily increased each year until it stood for 1889, 356,900 to the Catholic Church alone, and $204,000 to all the others together. Then President Harrison came in with General Thomas J. Morgan as Commissioner of Indian Affairs, and proposed to put a stop this whole system of things and let the churches support their own church schools and teach their church doctrines at their own expense. Yet Mr. Harrison's administration was obliged to confess openly in the United States Senate by Senator Dawes that it found it impossible to do that, as it was found impossible to stop it altogether. They proposed to do the next best thing and allow no increase of appropriations to any of the churches. Accordingly, in the annual estimates, no recommendation was made beyond what had been taken the previous year, and which it was found impossible to stop. With this, the Protestant denominations seemed to be satisfied, but the Catholic Church simply ignored the administration and went direct to the House of Congress and got all the increase, and she then wanted 4 additional schools adopted with an aggregate of $44,000 of encouragement, making 400,000 and 900 in all for the year 1890.
So hold on one second. We're going to switch and Sister Christine's going to share screen for me.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, when the Protestant denominations found that the Catholic Church was getting increased encouragement, when they could get no increase, they raised a cry of raid upon the public treasury and perversion of public money to sectarian uses. Their cry of stop thief amounted to nothing, however. The Catholic Church proudly walked off with her $44,000 clear in additional encouragement. Through the whole of Harrison's administration, these Protestants have kept up their cry of stop thief, and with the administration against the whole of it, they were so successful as to reduce the appropriation to themselves by the amount of $48,600 in the 4 years, and to the Catholic Church by $31,400 in the same time. So that for the year 1892, the encouragement stands $156,300 to all the Protestant denominations and $369,500 to the Catholic Church. So stop the thief, stop the steal. Yeah, sounds familiar. This is not all, however.
Sister Lana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a thought here on that. And that whole paragraph really previous to it. I mean, it started with this Indian Affairs deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how did that come about?
You mean the
Yeah, where they started to get into this money thing and giving it out to the churches.
encouragement? Okay, if you, Sister Christine, if I could ask you to go up a little.
Yeah,
I missed that.
I think the Catholic Church was asking for money because they couldn't do the schooling on their own kind of thing. Then it just kept going from.
If you remember that there was this Congress that they made this yeah, they would open if you could scroll up like a page all the way.
yeah, it's in that section there.
Right here.
I think it
Yeah,
is.
the government
Yeah,
should be
right there
liberal
where
in
it says
making
Cleveland's first administration.
yeah. Cleveland's first administration. So there was announced that the government should be liberal in making contracts with religious denominations. So now the government goes in contracts with religious denomination to teach Indian children in schools established by those denominations, and that's how they started getting money.
That's how it started. If they hadn't accepted that, not the church, but the Indian Affairs people,
Mhm.
then yeah, but they put their foot in the door
Mhm.
to take this money,
Mhm.
which leads to more doling out wherever it might be. They don't shut the door to it, and they allowed this to happen with the church.
Yeah, it's what we read what the Catholic Church had done, that they used tax money for the religious teachers.
Yes, it's the same principle working,
Yeah.
because you have church and state.
Yeah.
The church is supporting the state
And tax money.
with
is
tax
not-
money.
Tax money is not to support the church, but that's what they
Exactly.
were doing here.
Yeah, exactly. So this is something that just grows, bigger and bigger and bigger.
Snowball.
It all seems to be on the whole deal is, they're making money.
Mhm.
And there it says it, but stay right there for a second, back up just a teeny bit. So the door was accordingly thrown open by the administration, by Cleveland, and in walked the Catholic Church and 15 denominations of professed Protestantism, who all received encouragement at the following rate. And then it goes on, gives all the money. So
Yeah. Yeah, they're just enabling one another. In the name of a good thing, you know?
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, this is should I continue?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
Mhm.
please.
that's good.
This is not all, however, and in the rest of the story lies the increased peril and the key of the situation as it exists at the close of 1892. The sequel so far is this: from the day that President Harrison announced the name of General Morgan as Commissioner of Indian Affairs, the Catholic Church has kept up a continual warfare upon Mr. Morgan. And as Mr. Morgan was still retained in his place, this warfare was thus indirectly against the
Oh.
administration. But as she could not accomplish her purposes against Harrison's administration, and as the presidential campaign came on with Mr. Cleveland, who had opened to her the public treasury as the opposing candidate, through her influence in favor of Cleveland for president. The following editorial of the New York Independent, September 1st, 1892, states the facts as to this phase of the subject, as still hunt. A curious feature of the present campaign is the still hunt now in progress among the Catholics. Our readers know with what persistency the Bureau of Catholic Indian Missions at Washington has pursued General Morgan, Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Ever since he entered upon his office, they attempted to induce the President to withdraw his nomination and failed. They tried to defeat his confirmation and failed. They endeavored to frustrate his purposes by legislation and failed. They sought to induce the Secretary of Interior to overrule him and failed. They appealed again to the President, but without success. They attempted to destroy General Morgan's reputation and influence by newspaper attacks, which only reacted in his favor and served to create a strong public sentiment against both them and their cause. It is seldom that non-Catholics of the country have been so united on any subject as on this. An effort was made in their behalf to defeat the renomination of the president at Minneapolis, which met with a most signal failure, and now a supreme effort in being made to defeat his re-election. So here they are also influencing elections. A pamphlet signed by one of the officers of the Catholic Bureau, Father Stephen, and addressed to Bishop Marty, another officer of the Bureau, assailing President Harrison, Secretary Noble, and Commissioner Morgan for the Indian policy of the administration, has been printed and is being secretly circulated. We are informed, especially among the Catholic priests, with a view of defeating Harrison and electing Cleveland. We believe this to be a blunder on the part of our Catholic friends. It is an attempt to carry into politics a sectarian. You could scroll up, please, Sister Christine. A sectarian question which does not belong there. There are great national issues of supreme importance to our public welfare which alone should decide the result of the campaign, and the introduction of this outside issue is deplorable. It is an effort to consolidate the influence of the Catholic Church in behalf of the Democratic Party. Insofar as it is successful in this, it will tend to reunite the Protestants in the interest of the Republican Party, and thus to array these two great bodies of religionists against each other. This is certainly not in the interest of the of either Protestantism or Catholicism, and most assuredly cannot result to the benefit of the latter.
So let's pause there for just a second. Just wanted to, because you're kind of getting into the Democrats and Republicans. So it is an effort to consolidate the influence of the Catholic Church on behalf of the Democratic Party. Insofar as it is successful in this, it will tend to unite the Protestants in the interest of the Republican Party. So the Catholic Church sought to gain influence in the Democratic Party, if I'm understanding correctly, right? And by doing so, the Protestants unite with the Republican Party.
Is it before or after the Great Chiasm?
Great, before or after what?
Chiasm. I mean, when they flip Democrats and Republicans, the North becomes a Democratic.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Yeah, good point. Because because it's not until the civil rights movement, I think, where that gradually came to happen. So that's a good point. So think that through. What does this mean here then? Because this is in the late 1800s, 1890. So the Catholic Church consolidates. There's an effort to consolidate the influence of the Catholic Church on behalf of the Democratic Party. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for remembering that, Sister Lana.
Yes, no problem. I'm just looking up myself.
That meant, Sister Elaine,
Yeah.
that the transition was taking place between the North and the South in this time frame.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
You're right. I just, there's several sources that say, the Great Depression was that era after which the switch started happening. Maybe there's, more reliable sources. I'm just looking for them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a time period.
Yes, there's that. Sister Christine wrote.
I haven't finished it. I'm waiting for the answer.
Oh, it was in the period of the civil rights movement is what I remember being said.
Yeah, exactly.
But not at this time, not this early, you know what I mean?
It was
From
too
what I
early.
remember.
Well, civil rights,
Yes.
the Civil Rights Act was 1964. The
Yeah,
act
so
itself, but
so it does. Well, further research will be needed, but it looks like it is this with this civil rights movement. This Washington Post says South has gone for Republicans for quite some time. Since 1972, Republican presidential nominees generally carried majority in southern states. So it's from the civil rights start of the civil rights movement, I guess there was a switch.
so that would be like and then late 1950s to 1972.
Yeah. So what I mean is that this effort to consolidate influence of the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church is trying to influence the party that is currently Republican. I mean, so if we try to understand the Democrats back then are the Republicans now, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So right now what's happening is the same thing. Not the Catholics in this time, but the religion, Protestants.
Protestants, yeah.
Well, is this, I mean, we're reading about the 1880s history, but if I remember right, it was the Catholic Church supported the South during the Civil War. Is that correct?
I'm not sure on that one.
I think I remember hearing that.
Sounds familiar.
I remember that too, but I can't tell from where.
Yeah. So either way, at some point in time, the parties switched, but we know that you have Protestants aligned with. I was just kind of thinking about it as you read it, because the Protestants are linked to the Republican Party today. We know that, and a lot of the Democrats are Catholic.
That's true.
Yes, that's true.
So I don't know what that means, but
I think a lot of Democrats that are Catholic, you know, I know a lady. She's a multi-generational Democrat. And when I asked her why she is a Democrat, even so she shares the same democratic values, she says that everybody in my family for many generations were Democrats. We're just Democrats. That's what we are. And maybe, you know, a lot of people just like inherited this party line, and they just follow it, even so they may not necessarily agree with the you know, contemporary democratic ideas.
yeah, well, that makes, I think if we're thinking about what Elder Tess was talking about, the ones that were in the old school, they were, I don't remember her exact words, so maybe somebody remembers it better, but that there was like a conditioning to stay there. You're already set in your ways to stay there, and they just kind of go on that way and don't leave.
Yeah.
So it would seem generational, because I think that if anybody remembers, I think that's how the context she was putting it in is in the generations following, they just never came out of it.
Mm-hmm. True.
I'm going to be listening to all of those again.
Very.
And I know I'm going to want to add to my list Sister Christine, probably her last two, but I'm going to review them all to decide, but definitely these last two.
If anybody wants to add any tonight, we could do that. Did you mention stopping early tonight?
Yeah, 7:30. Yeah.
Okay, so we are right here. Do you want to stop at the end of this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, right, we've read this part, right?
Yeah, so I'll just read it. The Catholic Standard charged the Independent with slander in the publication of such a charge, but the Independent answered in a way that showed clearly that it was not publishing merely a flying rumor, but from actual knowledge. In its issue of September 15th, the Independent made answer, so we don't want to read on that, so we'll read that.
So we might want to restart right here.
Right, start right there.
Yeah,
I should have looked at the end and saw the
I
colon.
wasn't thinking about that either.
Saw the colon.
Okay. Oops. Stop
And I
sharing.
don't remember what day we do it again next, if work, Tony's fitting back in or what.
Would you like me to go ahead and open up the thing, or
If you want.
can you see it right now?
Nope,
Okay.
whatever's easiest for you.
I have it open. Okay, well, how do I stop sharing? Where did it go? Okay, there we go. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. So we are here, and the next time you're going to read this is March 1st.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait. No, today's here. So the next time you're reading it is Monday the 15th. If you're, no, it's Wednesday. What day are we? Today's Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on top of it. So next Monday, if you want to do it, because that's the every other Monday. We had last Monday off. If you want to, if it's good for you due to work, then we have Monday.
Yeah, and if I don't, then you guys go ahead without me, just in case, because I know I have a couple appointments on Tuesday that are going to interfere with work, and then I have something that's going to take an hour or two on Sunday. It's going to take from work, so just in case I can't be on hand to pick up for me if I need to work instead.
Definitely. Okay. Okay. And then the next time would be the 2 Mondays after that.
Okay.
And then probably this Wednesday too. Does anybody want to add anything?
We might be done by then. We'll see. We got
Yeah, we're pretty far into this document, so we'll probably be done by then.
So what do we have on Sabbath?
Okay, so this coming Sabbath is, are you and Jackie? Jackie's doing In God We Trust from Brazil, 38 and 39, and you're doing the 3 structures. The Sabbath after is Donna, Sister Donna. She's doing the nature and property of the parable. And then after that